Hey, what is going on, all my fellow godlies and Gears of War enthusiasts? Oh man, it feels so energizing to say that. Can you see how illuminated my face is? How electric and excited I am to be finally doing a different web series than Warframe. You guys, it's been since 2015 all the way up until like late 2020 that I was doing Warframe content, just slaving away, and like my passion for it completely died for various reasons. I never make decisions just based off of one thing. So anyway, before we get into this video, I wanted to release a small disclaimer letting you know that I will have a longer run with this web series than I did with the Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 God Builds series, but it's still going to be short. It's not going to be nowhere near as long as the Warframe stuff. I want to keep it small and contained while also at the same time giving you everything that you need to be successful in Gears of War 5. I just feel like there's not a lot of information out there on YouTube floating around. I feel like I'm a necessity, and I enjoy the game, so why not get back to my passion, things that I enjoy, and providing that insightful information that my viewers tend to like. Speaking of my viewers, I want to take this opportunity to thank from the bottom of my heart all of the long-time subscribers that have been on my page from the very beginning, or even people who just recently subscribed. You guys have helped me through some of the most difficult patches of my life. And even though YouTube continuously robs me of my money, I am putting video after video after video out for you guys, because I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I've truly been blessed. I have some of the best audience in the world. I couldn't ask for better fans. So you're the reason why I continue. You're the reason why this web series is coming up, and it's gonna be short and brief, to the point, because I've got bigger things lined up ahead of this. I've received a few confirmation emails of some things going on behind the scenes, and that leads me to my newer viewers. I'm trying to wrap up this intro as fast as possible, but if you're just now seeing me for the first time, hello, my name is Vance. I am a writer, an illustrator, an animator, and an editor. Outside of the video game related stuff that I've done, I have a massive portfolio of concept artwork that I've drawn. They're all my characters from my own written universe. I've written a trilogy, and not just a trilogy, but a list of spin-offs beyond that. So I've wrote like an entire pantheon with hundreds of characters, different mythologies, different genres, different stories. There's tons of stuff in it. I feel like I've made something for everybody. So I strongly suggest that if you're a new viewer to my page, go check out the Speed Paints playlist and see if you like any of the artwork that's there. Some of it is, most of it is all of my own original characters. Some of it is obvious stuff like Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, Superman from DC Comics, Pennywise the Clown from Stephen King. The list goes on and on. So just find something that you like, and hopefully this is just the first of many, many encounters we'll have later on down the line. But without any further ado, let's roll into the actual intro and get on with the web series. So first and foremost, I need to appeal to newcomers to Gears of War 5, people who have yet to play it, and also veterans, seasoned veterans, who already know what they're doing. First problem that Coalition has presented with us is a horrible category for classes. It's broken down into assault, tank, support, and promotional. I just can't, I don't like this setup. I gotta be honest with you, it honestly just sucks. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to break it down further into more digestible bits that are going to make more sense to the player themselves, because the number one question I always get with any role-playing type of game is, what class should I start with? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to categorize this first video as engineers, because these guys are already ready to go. If you see my Robotics Expert and my Mechanic, they're all maxed out at level 20, because that's where you max out at, and my Architect is also level 20. My Architect is probably the most complete build I have ready to go at this point in time. All of my cards are maxed except for the gold one, which is the Regenerative Field. So for the first episode, we're going to be focusing on engineers, how to play them, how to succeed with them, and how Coalition can maybe make them better. So the first one I want to talk about is the Architect. The Architect is an engineer class that uses deception to manipulate the enemy. One of the critiques that I want to say about it is that the hologram is, it doesn't get you out as much trouble as I would like it to do. Personally, I would like to see the role of Architect be switched with Infiltrator, because Infiltrator is a very tanky class. After you got the stim from killing something with a shotgun, you're very, very tanky, and I don't feel like you need the active camouflage. I would like to see Coalition actually just swap the camouflage over to Architect and give Architect the decoy over to Infiltrator, because I can see myself throwing out a decoy and then shotgun blasting somebody from behind as they're distracted. Whereas with the Architect, you really kind of need the invisibility, especially when you're repairing in the middle of a battle. There's so much things that you have to deal with in Gears of War 5 that are honestly quite bullshit. Now, with Robotics Expert, the main criticism that I have against this class is just the fact that the M-bar really sucks. You can't change your loadouts, which is something that I'm pulling for. I really want Coalition to make it so you can just swap out your loadouts. Like, you start out with an M-bar. Well, maybe you can change your loadout. You can just go here, click on this thing, and then instead of, changing your skins, you can change it to a sniper rifle. Or like here, you can change it to a Nasher instead of having an overkill. I like options. I always think that options make the world go round. It makes it a better place. M-bar just overall sucks. It doesn't zoom in very nice. It has a charge up time, which makes it awkward when you're trying to aim, and then you have to shoot within that window of time or you're shit out of luck. It's just very not optimal. And there's a lot of people who make this work, and God bless those people. But we're not talking about those people. We're not talking about veterans who are good with an M-bar. We're trying to make this game appeal to a wide audience, and make it so new players can get into the game and start advancing with it as quickly as possible. Yes, I can use the M-bar. Yes, I am good with it. I just don't like it. I feel like it needs... I was told by people who played Gears of War 4, because I actually skipped that installment of the Gears of War franchise. I played every game except for 4 and Tactics. And people tell me that in 4, the M-bar was overpowered. I never saw M-bar when it was overpowered, so I couldn't tell you if it needed a buff or a nerf. But I know for a fact that he needs a buff right now, and that's the weakest thing about the Robotics Expert. Otherwise, the ultimate is really good. The stats that you get are also really, really good. When your ultimate is ready to deploy, you do bleed damage with pretty much anything that you do. That's awesome. That's incredible. And then, the ultimate, I think that overall AI in Gears of War 5, it goes without saying, the AI really, really sucks. So if you improve the AI, which they're likely going to do in Gears of War 6, then this class would shine, because AI is just fucking worthless. If you've ever been in a horde lobby and your team just gave up on you and they left you, all you're left with is the red shirts the AI soldiers, and they suck. You might as well not even have them. They don't do anything. I could say 1,000,001 things about this, and ultimately what it boils down to is the Gears of War 5 community is toxic as hell. This game can really not be worth playing if you don't have a group of friends to play with. So keep that in mind when you're playing Robotics Expert, because if you don't have supportive teammates that aren't giving you power all the time, you're not gonna enjoy the engineer role. Next brings me to probably the strongest engineer we have, and that's the mechanic. And it's funny that I say that because early on when the mechanic was introduced, back when classes were still linked to characters, specific characters, this guy he used to deploy roller drones, like bomb drones, and they would have been fine, except for they had a few things holding them back. A, as we discussed before, shitty AI, and B, the explosive just didn't do enough damage. So Coalition actually changed it so that you could deploy a turret, and it would fix on a certain area of the map, like the Troikas used to do in like Gears of War 3 Horde, and you could just lay waste to everything in your way for that amount of time that you have that turret available. And it's incredible. It's great DPS, does massive amounts of bleed damage. It's definitely the strongest of the engineers, but not the tankiest. The Architect is definitely the tankiest because it gets stim, and it gets stim for nothing. All you gotta do is avoid damage and then you get tankier. It's crazy. So let's get into the builds of these. Generally all of these play the same. And the universal critique that I have for all of them is the fact that you do not get enough power. Horde is all about power. You have to have the taps, you have to be getting power. In a lot of cases you have to rely on your teammates to donate you power. But the problem is they don't get enough power either, so they feel more incentivized to leveling up their perks during Horde. Whereas you need their power in the Fabricator so that you can deploy fortifications and upgrade those fortifications, repair those fortifications, and also work on your perks. It's a mess, and it's a simple solution. All Coalition has to do is increase the overall power that everyone gets across the board and actually make it so all of the engineers who have build new fortifications at a small discount passive ability to gain more power than everybody else. Start out with double the amount that everybody else has, get more power from taps, get more power from pickups, get more power all across the board. That way they can afford fortifications and they can also work on their perks. I think it's very, very important that every class be able to work on perks while also donating enough for the engineers to really make a team effort work, because it's very rare that you get on the highest difficulty with a good team that can really make it. It's rare. It just is. And oftentimes one class overshines the other, and my critique is to kind of balance everything out. I want it to be challenging, but I want it to be fair and not feel like anybody is dead weight and just getting pulled around, you know? So that's my overall critique with the engineers. I think they all suffer from that problem. They need more power, period. You're generally going to play them the same. You're generally going to have them using turrets to fend off oncoming onslaught of enemies. You're going to use your shock sentries to slow things down. You use shock sentries instead of normal turrets when you know you have good DPS roles on your team. So anybody who does heavy amounts of damage, if you've got people who are reliant enough that you can, they just smash the entire map, then just put your shock sentries down so that you slow enemies down. Barricades are probably the most important thing. That's what you want to be throwing up as an engineer. And then beyond the barricades, depending upon who you have in your squad, like if you have a marksman is going to be so grateful that you have spawned a weapons locker. You're going to need weapons locker would probably be the second priority, but it's highly dependent upon whether or not you have DPS in your squad. If you don't have a whole lot of DPS, then you're going to rely mainly on the munition sentries. You're not going to rely a whole lot on the shock sentries. You're going to rely on the main sentries, and you might not put a weapon locker on. It really depends on who you have in your squad and if they want it / need it. I know that for me playing a marksman, I need a weapons locker. I know that if I'm playing a pilot, I probably need the weapons locker for a drop shot. I know for a fact that if I'm playing demolition, I definitely need a weapons locker for my boom shots. Because demolition is probably the most demanding thing of perks. It's insane, but we'll cover that when we get to that. So I would say that decoys are fucking worthless. I would never put power into that. I would also never crank out a forge unless you know for a fact that your friend is playing Jack and he has the optimizer mod. If he doesn't have the optimizer mod and he's not high level Jack, then you don't need a forge. There's no need for it. I wish there were a way to just sell weapons, but that's a universal problem that's completely separate from engineers. One thing that I would like to say about the overall game before we get any further into the engineer discussion is how taps should automatically release power to you at the end of every wave, because there is far too much maintenance for an engineer and the rest of the squad to do. You have to run around the map, you have to pick up all the power that's on the ground, you have to empty the taps, you have to repair fortifications. There is so much maintenance, and I feel like it's Maintenance Simulator 2021. It's outrageous. I was even told that Jack should have like a magnetic ability where he sucks in all of the guns in one area or all the power in one area, so that way it makes life easier on everybody. But that's a suggestion for the Jack video, and right now we're focused on the engineers. So I'm going to start out with the Robotics Expert because it's a long-range artisan. It's going to operate like a engineer sniper. So what you're going to want to be building for is the Bloody DR1. This is the ultimate that summons a robot to operate a chain gun, and he'll do a lot of bleed damage. Just keep in mind that the AI sucks. He could, go out into the battlefield and get just decimated and not help you at all. Alternatively, he could go out there and be a really good distraction and lay in some good DPS, or he could just go back to spawn and hide and not do anything. You gamble with the AI, which is something that I dislike, so I don't tend to use the DR1 very often. I really only use it when I'm in really tight situations, when like maybe a berserker / matriarch has invaded our base and there's a lot of teammates down, and I just really need that matriarch to be distracted so I can go pick somebody up really quick. That's a situation in which I'll use the DR1. Otherwise, I don't, because it's more useful to have the DR1 ready to go and capitalize on bleed damage than it is to actually use the DR1. You're going to want Combat Engineer, and this modification is something that you're going to use with all of the engineers. You need to be able to repair things faster, and anything that says repair faster or more efficiently, build for that. Experimental weapons. I think that this is something that's unique to Robotics Expert. I'm not sure, but we're going to look into the other engineer roles. This just makes it so like all of the DB weapons will give you more damage. Bloody support, precision damage, so this is all with sniper, marks, torque bow, long shot, anything that scopes in. And then precision repairs, precision kills, heal all fortifications for 120 HP. You're not going to be getting a lot of precision kills because M-bar really sucks, and especially if you have heavy DPS on your team, it's going to be really, really hard to get those DPS kills. There's a lot holding Robotics Expert back, and that's why I want to talk about it first, because it's probably the weakest out of the 3 engineers that you got here. This loadout is just ball sack. If something gets up close to you, you gotta rely on the overkill and that's not going to kill anything one shot. But a lot of the things that get up close to you will kill you with one shot, because the difficulty just gets so absurd to deal with. It doesn't have any grenades. I feel like it could highly benefit from that, so that's something to consider. Now moving on to the mechanic. Again, healing repair is here, and it's pretty much the same mod that we were discussing with Robotics Expert. Repairing provides 2.5 stim, so this falls in line with repairing faster, repairing more efficiently. This has to do with repairs, and it helps you absorb more damage. 1 second of repairing reduces cooldown for mechanic. Why that's useful is because you want to have your ultimate as soon as possible, as often as possible. The mechanic is completely opposite of the Robotics Expert when it comes to their ultimate. You want to be able to deploy your turret whenever you can, as often as you can, because that is such great DPS. Custom robotics, it's again the same thing. These are experimental weapons and give you extra damage upon active reloads. Shredder rounds helps with your ultimate. Like I said, it will do bleeding damage. And then overload is allowing your turrets to be as strong as they can possibly be, and that's super important with every engineer, because the best way for an engineer to defend themselves is with their turrets. So covering the last engineer here, the architect, Regenerative Field. It will regenerate stim while avoiding damage. This is free defense just for not getting hit. This is probably one of the best things that an engineer could have, because they're really vulnerable without any good loadout to defend them, especially if they don't have a good ultimate like mechanic. Flow, so 32% damage resistance while repairing. This is obviously really helpful, so you can actually repair things while under heavy fire, and for the most part you can pretty much tank a lot of shots that are coming. I've been able to absorb boom shot rounds that just landed really, really close to me while I had stim. Of course, it popped my stim, but I was able to tank it. I was able to face tank it. So that's saying something about the architect. Definitely one of the tankiest ones of the engineers. And then you have the repair efficiency. Like I said before, anything that repairs faster, anything that repairs more efficiently, anything that gives you defense while you're repairing, you want to go for. That's what you want to build for. Top of the line, fortifications over 50% health do 40% more damage. Again, that's turrets. You definitely want to be building up your turrets. You definitely want to aim for your perks. Any perks that you get to deal with, essentially all the perks that are available for the engineers are really good. But if I were going to focus on anything, I would definitely focus on fortification damage, because that's going to make the sentries do an absurd amount of damage. Like if I've got 8 sentries set up guarding one area, that's it. Enemies can't even get out of spawn. I'll literally spawn trap enemies and you won't even see them. All the other players will be bored. But that doesn't happen very often because it requires so much. It requires everybody in the team to donate power to the fabricator. It requires them to hold them off long enough for me to get these sentries built and upgraded. It requires a lot of work. So by that point, you're just coasting through. And I strongly feel like Horde should be increased to like 100 waves, because by 50, if you have everything set up, dude, you can just go on forever and ever and ever. It's crazy. Stim capacity, so I don't even need to talk about this one. We know that stim is really, really good because it's like an overshield from Halo. It guards you from getting damage done to your health. It's gonna be obvious that you need to have this in your setup. So that concludes the builds that I would use for the engineers, but it doesn't talk at all about escape. Now personally, I've seen robots experts and mechanics play an escape, but I can't recommend this. That's why I don't really have any build recommended for you for the mechanic. And for the robots expert, it's generally the same. I have experimental weapons, bloody support. This time, the two mods that are separate here are Parting Gift, which is 80% increased damage with grenade tags, because grenades are just more, they're more readily available in escape mode. And then Killing DBNO enemies deals 50% damage to surrounding enemies. That's awesome because they cluster together and escape. Not as much as what they would do in Horde, but if you can kill one enemy and that kill hurt somebody else, that's a clear benefit there. I can't recommend Robotics Expert or Mechanic for escape modes. There's just tons of different classes that are way more useful for that mode, but if you are really keen on the idea of playing an engineer in escape mode, I would definitely go with Architect. Why? Because Architect is tanky. Architect is very tanky. They can absorb a lot of punishment. And the way you're going to build with an Architect is 150% longer hologram duration. That way you can shoot the hologram off into the distance and hopefully get enemies to turn around. That way you can attack them from behind. Stim capacity is increased by 10%. Deception, 180% extra damage while flanking. So, like I said, if you turn enemies around, then you capitalize on this mod here, and that's just all around a good time for everybody. Hologram Extend, ballistic hits extend hologram by 80%. Regenerate stim per second while avoiding damage, which is something that we have in our Horde build. And that about does it. That really sums it up for all the engineer classes. You want to focus on maintenance, you want to focus on repairing, you want to focus on sentries, maybe putting out a weapons locker to regenerate ammo for your teammates if you have teammates that have a specific weapon that they always need ammunition for. I mean, there's not much more to say. I am generally not a maintenance keen type of player. I don't enjoy that, so I wanted to cover my least favorite category of classes first. And to conclude this video, this has been a introduction into 3 different classes. So we're talking about the Mechanic, the Robotics Expert, and the Architect. The next set of classes that I'm probably going to do is Fisticuffs, which is just overall melee, because I feel like there's a lot of classes that really operate the same way. So if this has been helpful to you in any way, and if you learned something from it, it always helps if you smash that like button, rate, comment, subscribe, ring that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload. And until next time, this has been Vance, and you can't add Vance without Vance. See you later.